欢迎您收听爱家网教育生活节目。爱家网是一个服务华人家庭的新媒体，我们不定期地邀请各个领域的生活达人，分享他们的专业知识和生活经验，帮助华人家庭更好地融入美国社会。我们也十分欢迎在自己的领域中有所建树的朋友们自荐，成为爱家网下期节目的嘉宾。欢迎大家关注爱家网公众号北美爱家，获得下期节目信息。下面请您收听今天的主题节目。
大家好，我是海东，又到了爱家网教育生活节目的时间。今天的主题内容是西点军校。西点军校建校于1802年，迄今已有217年的历史，是美国的第一所军校，隶属美国陆军，用来培养陆军军官。西点军校的英文全称为 The United States Military Academy at West Point， 直译名称为美国军事学院。因为它坐落于纽约上州西点这个地方，因而得名西点军校。在西点军校毕业的学生一毕业就会获得美国陆军少尉军衔，上学时的所有费用，包括学费、书本费和生活费等等，都由美国国防部负担。这在大学学费不断上涨的大环境下显得格外突出。而作为回报，所有毕业生都必须留在美国陆军服役至少5年。虽然很多人都知道西点军校，但如何进入西点军校，进去以后又有什么样的大学体验和职业前景呢？坊间对西点军校也有着很多未经确认的传闻。今天我们就请来了西点军校负责新泽西招生的招生代表 Felix Yim 先生，为大家介绍相关的细节和澄清一些错误的认识。Felix 是一名韩裔美国人，他的儿子2年前从西点军校毕业，所以他不仅熟悉西点军校的招生细节，也会从一个父亲的角度分享他对孩子上西点军校的心得和体会。今天的节目将通过英文进行，欢迎各位家长邀请自己的孩子一同收听。下面我们就有请 Felix Yim。 Welcome to the show, Felix. Please say hello to happy homekeeping audience and give a brief introduction of yourself.
My name is Felix Yim. So happy that share this information with everyone. I live in River Edge, New Jersey. My son went to Riverdale High School in River Edge, New Jersey, and graduated from there 2013 and got accepted to West Point and graduated from West Point in 2017. So I'm a parent of a graduate West Point. What I do is I help candidates for admission purposes. So I'm a local admission representative for West Point. As a volunteer, I help candidates. I work with the ground counselor. I work with the admission office, and also I work with the congressman office for nomination. And I will conduct any required admission interviews, any advice, and mentor candidates throughout the whole process. That's what I do, and we have approximately about 30 representatives throughout the New Jersey.
You mentioned you are a West Point admission representative. Can you clarify what are the differences between an admission representative and admission officer?
It's like we are working on the field, connecting with the candidates. We are 100% volunteer work. We are like eyes of West Point admission office.
I'd like to talk about how to get into West Point, but before we do that, let's take a few minutes just to talk about what and the why. First of all, for parents who are not familiar with West Point, what is West Point?
West Point is a military academy. So we have the three major ones like West Point, United States Military Academy of West Point, also Naval Academy, and Air Force Academy. Like any top-tier colleges, we offer more than 40 different majors. West Point experience trains whole person academically and physically and morally. That's what we set ourselves different than other colleges. And our mission is to educate, train, inspire the Corps of Cadets so that each graduate is a commissioned leader of a character, committed to value of duty, honor country, and prepare for career of professional excellence, serve to the nation as an officer in the United States military. Officer in the United States Army. So that's our main purpose.
Thank you for the introduction. You mentioned 40 majors, all undergraduate majors.
West Point is it's an engineering school. So when you graduate from West Point, you get a degree of a Bachelor of Science. But we do offer liberal art courses as well. So there's many different areas that you could, when you get into West Point, there's many different areas that you could get into and then study for the careers that you wish to have.
So you mentioned West Point is the Army system, meaning that once you graduate, you have to serve in the Army, right?
Yes, correct. Once you graduate from West Point, you are mandatory to serve 5 years in the Army as a second lieutenant. As soon as you graduate from West Point, you become a second lieutenant, and then you will serve in the Army as an officer. So you are obligated to serve for 5 years.
So we'll talk more about that 5-year obligation. Can you tell me more about what second lieutenant is about? Does it mean leading the soldiers, and how many soldiers you have to lead?
Depends on the branch that you were selected to. For example, my son, he was trained in Oklahoma for 6 months, and then he got stationed in Korea, South Korea, and he was there for 6 years. He was there for 1 year, and then now currently he's serving in Kentucky. So right now he's as a platoon leader. So as a platoon leader, he will have about close to 40 or 45 soldiers to lead in any kind of situation they will face.
Wow. Leading 40 soldiers, that's definitely a leadership position.
Yes, it is. I mean, my son is looking to stay close like 8 years. When you be in the Army for about, say, 8 years, usually they become more like a captain. And they will have about leadership of about 150 soldiers.
Why should somebody join West Point? What's your official answer to that?
It's a leadership. I mean, if you are interested in serving the country, I think that's your main purpose of it. If you care about the country, that you want to serve the country or serve the other people, I think that if you have that in you, and the West Point is the one route that you wish. I mean, it's the one route that everybody take a look at it. Really, that'll be a good chance to in a way to get involved with the West Point.
There are some perks of West Point, right? There's no college tuition.
There's no tuition because there's a way everything is funded by the Department of Defense. As soon as you get accepted to West Point, as soon as you go into West Point, and first day you are the property of the United States Army. So all the tuition plus the uniform, everything will be paid for it. Also, you get paid as a soldier, and first you get paid as a soldier. And also when you graduate, West Point, and if you wish to go to graduate school, and also each year that you go into graduate school, every 2 years you have to pay back serving the country because they will pay for the whole tuition for the graduate school also. We invest close to about $125,000 per cadet per year. So that's including the training, that's including the uniforms, that's including the meals you want to get, and plus that's including the domes, which is we call that a barrack. So everything that is living expenses is in there. That's all covered.
Got it. That's a huge amount of money. Consider how expensive colleges are right now. On top of all that, you actually get paid as a soldier.
It's not a great amount, but small amount that they could have some kind of spending money.
How much is that?
After they take away all the uniforms and stuff like that, all the like laptops or the books, whatever it is, that cover all the expenses there. I would say $150, $200 every month. As soon as you graduate from West Point, if you wish to go to grad school, that's going to cover by the United States Army. The cadets have to pay back every 2 years. Every year they'll be grad school. Yeah, they get paid as a second lieutenant while they're in the grad school also.
Got it. So every year I go to graduate school, for example, the master's degree I go for 2 years, I go into that program, I need to serve 4 more years.
4 more years plus 5 years obligation.
Got it. The same applies for medical school and MBA, those degrees as well, right?
Medical school is very lengthy. I mean, order for you to finish the medical school, it's going to take approximately about 8 years. So if you graduate from West Point right away and wants to go to medical school, then you have to be really a top 2% of in the class, the West Point, and it's very tough to get in. And when you be a top 2%, you are required to take NCAT, and if you have a good score in an NCAT, then you can apply to other medical school. So you figure that every 2 years, for every year that you spend in medical school plus 5 years obligation, close to about 20 years you'll be in the Army.
Oh, man.
So that's,
okay. What about the veteran status? So once you graduate, are you entitled to veteran benefits?
Yes. And as soon as you walk first step in the West Point, that you are covered 100% with the medically. And then also when you graduate from West Point, you get all the retirement set up as a regular like Army retirement plus the medical benefit and also all other benefits the Army will offer.
Awesome. It sounds really great, the perks. And let's move on to how to join West Point. Can you tell us about the requirements? Let's start from the academic. Can you tell us what's the SAT score or ACT? First of all, what test the candidates need to take?
For you to get into West Point, you have to be 17 and older, and you have to be not more than 22 by July 1st. You're neither married or not pregnant, and no legal or financial responsibility for any children. And you have to be a good physical and mental health, and you have to show very strong leadership potential. SAT, if you have that requirement, then you could stand, you apply. You can apply. And SAT, the academic purposes is like this. We are looking at the three things, which is academic ability, leadership potential, and candidate fitness assessment. So academic potential, academic ability, that's including SAT, ACT score, plus class rank, and also transcript. So we are looking at those three categories for academic abilities.
So you mentioned SAT and ACT. Is ACT optional? The candidate has to take both.
Well, we highly encourage candidates to take the both tests on SAT, ACT, but I mean, I've been doing this for about 5 years, and what I experienced is that, especially in this where we are in Northeast area, and a lot of kids do much better on ACT than SAT, and ACT is a little bit easier test than SAT, so I highly encourage a lot of candidates to take the ACT over SAT. So
got it. So ACT optional, but you highly encourage because you'll be scored higher by most people.
Yes, there's most people is higher, and then also we require writings also on SAT and ACT. You must take the writing on both tests.
You have to take the written portion of the test. And what is the typical score that you need to?
The typical score is a nationwide. It's close to like SAT is 1350 to 1400. That's the average score for nationwide. And ACT is the nationwide average for West Point is close to like 29 or 30. If you are in a Northeast area where it's very competitive where we are, with that score, it's hard for you to get into West Point. So in this area, in this especially in metropolitan area in this section, I think my experience, and you have to score close to approximately about 1480, about 1500 on SAT, and ACT-wise close to about 32, 33, then you put yourself in a very competitive position for getting admitted to West Point.
Got it. So for the New York region, SAT, you need to score 1480 to 1500, and ACT somewhere 32 to 33. So you mentioned you look at the test scores. You don't look at GPA, but you do look at the class ranking. Can you tell us more about the class rank?
Yeah, the reason why we don't look at the GPA so much, not so heavy as not so heavy on a GPA, we're looking at the transcript. So make sure transcript has required classes that each candidate haven't taken last 3 years. So for you to apply to West Point, you have to have 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 2 years of language, and 1 year of some kind of computer science, and 1 year of laboratory science. So that's why we're looking at that. Also looking at the transcript. So also we're looking at what kind of classes are you been taking. Are you taking honor classes? Are you taking AP classes? Or are you taking IB classes? So as a candidate, if you're taking a more competitive class, then we're going to rate that much more than the candidates who's taking our regular classes. So that's the reason why we're very focused on the transcript. Also, looking at the class rank will represent how competitive you are in your class. So if you are taking a tough classes, then automatically, and if you're getting a good grades, then automatically your class rank will be higher. So we are looking, it's kind of unfair for kids who's taking a regular classes, like not an AP, not an honors, getting a 4.0, over the kids who's taking AP, IB classes, taking 3.5. So I think that's why we're looking at those two a lot. And also, as I mentioned about SAT, ACT score, SAT, ACT weighs so much on the whole application process. So you must, as a candidate, have to have really good scores on SAT, ACT score, then you have a really good chance of getting to West Point.
Got it. So besides the score is definitely a must. Your class rank, whether you take some tough classes like AP, IB, also matter a lot because that proves you can handle that tough situation and you can still outrank others. What about the class rank? Are there certain top 5% you're looking for or 10%? Is there any number that comes to your mind?
Close to about 75% that got into West Point, they're like a top 20%. Or in high school's club. And so if you are like a top 10%, then you are in good position.
Got it. So top 20% is like a baseline, but top 10% will be a very good position. Besides the score, the class rank, you also mentioned the physical part. Can you tell us more about the physical?
We call it a candidate fitness assessment. There's a minimum scores and there's also a maximum scores. And physical part is only a 10% of the application, but if you don't pass that 10% on a physical part, there's no way you're going to get into West Point. So you must pass that 10% to get into West Point. So when you get into West Point, you will do physical assessment twice a year for each semester. So you must pass that physical part from freshman to sophomore. Physical is very crucial in the whole process.
Yeah, I understand. There are definitely more. We're going to get into that. Just for the candidate physical assessment, what exactly the candidate need to do?
Pull-up, as a male, has to do is like a 9 pull-ups. And shuttle run for average male is 9.1 seconds. The setup is about 72, and push-up is about 54. 1 mile run is about 640. That's the average. And then also the basketball throw, which is 67 feet. That's the minimum that required for the West Point. Female is much less. Pull-up is 3 pull-ups. Shuttle run is 10 seconds. Setup is 68. Push-up is like 33. 1 mile run is like 8 seconds. And basketball is 41. So we do have like 6 different areas that you have to do in a certain average scores to pass that test.
Got it. You mentioned the 9 pull-ups for the male candidate. Is there a time limit for that?
Yeah, there's a 2 minutes, each event, and then also there's a 2-minute break on each event, between each events.
Oh, so after the 2-minute break, you have to move on to the next. The candidate has to be U.S. citizen only, right? There's no overseas.
Candidate must be U.S. citizen, or if you're not citizen, you have to obtain your citizenship before you get into West Point.
So besides all these requirements, can you walk us through the application process?
Application process, it works like this. There's a 2 part of applications in a West Point. So the first part will open usually on January of each year. The first part that's only for the candidates for junior years that go into senior year. So junior of January, that's the first part opens up. Also on the first part, usually candidate put their personal information plus the SAT, ACT, or PSAT score, and then they can apply for the formal leadership program for the June that year. So that's the first part. And then the second part of the application usually opens up in July. And then the second part is more detailed application, more the specific ones that you have to update it, which is more like transcript you have to update in your file, and also your essays that have to, there's 3 different essays that you have to write, and then you have to be, your guidance counselor have to be verified, your activities that you do inside the school, or any kind of sports that you do, there's a need to be verification from your guidance counselor. And also you will need, candidates will need 4 recommendation letter from your, one from your English teacher, one from your science teacher, one from your PE teacher, and then one from your math teacher. Plus, you will have to get a medical, which is the medical exam is performed by Department of Defense Medical Unit, and they will designate you to 2 different hospitals in this area. So you will go there to do the full exam. And then also there's a CFA, which is a cadet fitness assessment you must do on that during the application period. So that's how the application process works. It's a whole, starting from January to all the way to next following year of February 28th is the last day of application. But if you wait till last day of the application of February, most likely you're not going to get into West Point, because you make sure if you want to get your application done as soon as possible, which is usually I tell my candidates to finish your application within 45 to 60 days, which is when you have second part of the application opens up in July, then you must finish your application by end of September.
Is there early decision, admission, regular admission? There's such thing for West Point?
At West Point, we don't allow no rolling admission, but we do hand out the letter of assurance, which is, we call that, that's I don't want to call that early decision, but like a letter that giving out to very, very, very top candidates. So mostly goes out to recruit athletes. Also, that there's a few candidates who show top leadership skill plus a top SAT, ACT scores, and this shows a very strong potential for West Point, that we will give that letter, which is a letter of assurance. And once you obtain that letter, you must finish the CFA. Then you have your applications all finished by a certain time, and then you get your nomination. Then we will reserve a spot for admission. It's a guaranteed spot.
So that letter of assurance, when was that issued, and roughly how many students get that each year?
That letter of assurance is usually available starting August of every year for top candidate. But like I said, so you have to be a very strong candidate. Plus, you have to pass CFA, which is cadet fitness assessment, in order for you to get that letter of assurance. So that's going to be available between August and September. Throughout the whole country, I would say approximately about 100, 125. Last year in New Jersey alone, because I'm more focused on New Jersey area, so in New Jersey alone, we hand out close to about between 20 to 25 letter of assurance handed out.
Once you get a letter of assurance, you go through the rest of the application process. One of the steps is the nomination. Can you tell us more about how the nomination works?
Nomination is required by all the service academy. So it's going to be required by law. So each candidate who's applying to West Point or Naval Academy or Air Force or Merchant Marine, you have to obtain at least one nomination from your congressman or your senators and or your vice president. So every regular candidate, not the parents that who's involved, who's currently in the military, or they are, like ROTC or junior ROTC, or they have their special nomination. Regular candidates, they do have nominations, which is you could get it from a congressman, one of the congressmen from your district, and the senators, which is every state we have 2 senators. So you could get one nomination from the senators. Also, you can apply for a vice president nomination. So congressmen have 10 spots for each academy for they can nominate. So the same as the senators have 10 spots they could nominate each academies. And also vice president has, I believe they have 5 spots for nomination. So as a candidate, you only have to have one nomination for you to consider for West Point.
I guess from just like a regular parent, we think this is going to be really, really tough to get because nobody actually knows any of the congressmen or senate. How would the congressman decide to give a student the nomination or not?
They will look at the SAT score plus the leadership skill. That's why they're looking at it. So you don't have to have some kind of relationship with the congressmen or senators. You don't have to have that kind of relationship. When I have conversation with a lot of parents, and everybody, as you mentioned, they're very focused on the nomination because they ask the same question that you ask, but really the nomination is probably the easier than getting into West Point. So
got it.
All the application is available each year on a congressman website or senator's website. So you just download it, fill out the application, and then you send it in as a required documents. You have to send in a transcript or plus a recommendation letter from other people that who could recommend you for nomination. So you have to send it in the recommendation letter, SAT scores, your leadership skill, you put that on everything in the application, you send it in, and once they review the application, and then they're going to set up an interview with the candidate. Usually it's going to be invite all candidates from district, and then they're going to invite all the candidates for senators. So they sit down, give a whole interview for about half an hour. And then after the interview, there's a review on the interview. And then after that, we select the candidates based on the interview process and application.
Thanks for debunking that myth. It's not really the hardest part of getting the West Point.
Parents think that it's very hard, but no, that's not it's not difficult. And also, you just have to get one. And there's a 10 spot in each nomination. It's not that difficult to getting a nomination.
Thanks for explaining that. So what's next?
Well, just because you're getting a nomination, it doesn't mean you're going to get into West Point.
Sure.
So, if you have a nomination, as I mentioned before, it's academic ability, leadership, and candidate CFA, which is cadet fitness. That's the main thing that we're looking at it. But also that, as I mentioned before, the medical issues, you have to be qualified for medical. And then physically, which is a cadet fitness test, then you have to be qualified. And then also you have to be qualified, which is academically, that's including a leadership and your SAT, ACT transcript or the class rank. So if you are qualified on those 3 categories, which is academically, medically, and physically, and then plus if you get a nomination, and then that's when they consider for admission for West Point. And they will review the application, and then if you have a good scores, you will consider for West Point admission. If you are qualified, you get a nomination, and the West Point admission office will decide to send you an offer for West Point admission. So if you receive an admission for offer, usually comes out in February of each year, which is February of your candidate's senior year. So that's when it's starting to come out. Once you receive that letter, you could accept it or you could decline it. Once you accept that offer, you have to do your medical again, which is your dental and dental check. Yes, you must be done, and also you have to do the background check, also your fingerprints, all that stuff that you have to do, and also there's other areas that you have to do for it to be verified as a good standing, and also you have to get ready for the first day of the West Point, which usually happens in July 1st or July 2nd. So you have to, get ready for that. The training, the basic training. So there's many items that you have to be, prepared for, like buying stuff or like boots and stuff like that, and for the training.
Once the student get into West Point, it's called a cadet, right?
You don't recognize as a cadet before you finish the cadet basic training. So let me explain a little bit about cadet basic training. Is once you get accepted to West Point, and then you accept an offer, and then you go in as a new cadet on July 2nd. And once you walk into July 2nd, you will do 6 weeks of basic training. During this 6-week basic training, first week you will do like in-process uniforms, and then you will do academic replacement test, and then you will get involved with like a marksmanship, fundamental, and first aid, and you will do physical training, group marching, and field training, and also you will learn value and Army culture within 6 weeks. So after 6 weeks, you pass that basic training. That's when you will be recognized as a cadet. After they finish the basic training, they will have a big ceremony. Senior cadets and the new cadets, they will meet together in a plane or the big field, right front of the barrack where in the West Point. The ceremony will call the acceptance day, which is we call that A Day. After that ceremony, then you will officially recognized as a cadet at that time.
Got it. So at this point, I'd like to talk about a little bit more about the cadet training. I read a book, which is a very famous book. It's called The Grit, Perseverance and Passion for Long-Term Goals by Angela Duckworth. It's a very popular book. In the beginning of the first chapter, it spent quite a few paragraphs discussing the cadet training at West Point. I'd like to read a small portion of it. 14,000 applicants begin the admission process. Just 4,000 succeed in getting the required nomination, and slightly more than half of those applicants, which is about 2,500, meets West Point's academic and physical standards, and from that, just 1,200 are admitted and enrolled. Nearly all the men and women who came to West Point were varsity athletes. Most were team captains. Is that true that most candidates enrolled in West Point are actually varsity athletes and team captains?
Yes, about 87%, close to probably 90% of our varsity level winners, and about close to 70% of the team captains in certain sports that were involved. So, and also there's about 15% as an Eagle Scout, which is a very prestigious award, and about 40% is a Scout participant. So I'm sorry, the Eagle Scout will go to award for the Girl Scout. So leadership is a very key in West Point. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that from this number. Really shows a lot of leadership in the candidates that you guys select. Another paragraph that I would like to read is the following. And she says in the book, 1 in 5 cadets will drop out before graduation. And what's more remarkable is that historically, a substantial fraction of dropouts leave in their first summer during an intensive 7-week training called BEAST, who spends 2 years trying to get into a place and then drops out in the first 2 months. That number looks quite scary, that 1 in 5 cadets actually going to drop out in the first 2 months. Is that also your experience?
The main purpose for candidates to apply to West Point, right, It has to be their goal, their mindset. That's the one place that you wanted to go as a candidate. That has to be your number one. There are a lot of candidates who drop out, the parents who push them to go to West Point. It's not their dream to be in the Army or being West Point. So that's probably the reason, big factor of a lot of cadets who drop out inside the West Point. After the sophomore years, you could stay and you sign a contract. And when you sign the contract, you're obligated to go to the third year and you will finish the West Point and then go into 5 years. And they will give you a choice whether you want to sign it, not to sign it. If you are opt out, wish to sign, not to sign the contract, they could just finish the second year and you could get transferred to different school. Each year, approximately about 100 cadets were transferred to different schools. There's 4 major trainings that you have to do. But those 4 major training, that's including a basic training once you get in. And there's a 4-week training right after the first year, it's going on second year. On a summer break, you have to do a 4-week training. And there's another training, which you will do like 2-week training from the second year to third year summer break you will do. And then there's another 2-week training that must do between third year to fourth year on a summer break they will have to do. There's 4 major trainings, but all the major training will be done during the summer break, so not during the school years. The school year will start from second week of August, will carry on all the way to May, the last week of May, right before the graduation. So during that year, is all focused on academic. So they will, just like the regular college, so they will all focus on the academic, but also there's a small duties that each cadet they has to do, small marching or small formations that they have to do, but all the major training that involves during the summer breaks. And then also we have quite a few percentage that went to college for about 2 years or 1 year and transferred to West Point. Things like that happen. But it's a different culture shock for a lot of high school cadets. So that's why there's a percentage that kids drop out during the basic training, as she mentioned on the book, and that's probably accurate.
I really like the point you made earlier that a lot of candidates who drop out because that's not what they really wanted, but they were pushed down by their parents to join West Point. I think that goes a long way, that if they are pushed down by parents' expectation or peer pressure, not really truly what they wanted to do, and it's only going to last so long. I think that's something a lot of our audience can really take away. If a student wanted to drop out, where normally they will go to.
If they wanted to go to different school, that'll be fine. It's up to the candidate. Cadet basic training starts in first week of July. If they drop out within like 2 weeks, 3 weeks period, I think they still have a chance to go to other school.
I see.
So maybe they go to regular community school.
Let's move on. Let's talk about life at West Point. Can you talk about the first year cadet? What is their daily schedule like?
As a first year, you could choose the major as a first year.
Okay.
So you choose a major in the first year, but your study basically on core courses like any other college that offer, any other like a regular good Ivy League will offer. So you're going to study that. So usually that's class academic program. But usually the cadets will get up usually 5:30 in the morning, and they do formation in the morning, and then after the formation, they go to a barrack and they're washed up, and then the breakfast starts at close to like around 7:30 or 8 o'clock. So you have a breakfast, and then class starts at between 8:30 to 9 o'clock. That's when this class starts at. So you go to a classroom. After the classroom, close to about 2:30 or 3 o'clock, you will finish your class, and then you will do your clubs or your company sports, anything that you are involved in, any kind of sports you wish, and you do that. And then after that, sports or activities that you are involved, and you probably around close to 5:30, around 6 o'clock, you finish all that. From the 6 o'clock, you have dinner. And then after dinner, that you have your own time to study or other things that the cadets wish to do. And around 12 o'clock, that's when the lights goes off around 12 o'clock. But usually, kids started past 12 o'clock. As the first year, there's a certain duties that they have to do for the first year cadet, which is doing laundries, or for the senior cadet, they pick up the laundries and send it to the laundry. They don't do the laundry themselves, but they pick up the laundries for the senior cadets and then get into the laundry facility, give it to the laundry facilities, and they clean the room. And they do have a major inspection every month. So you have to do the major inspections. You have to pass the major inspections. That applies to all the cadets. Also, there's a football games or major sports games. You are assigned to each company when you get into West Point. So each company has a different duties to do. So you have to follow that different duty, each company that you are involved in.
So wake up at 5:30 in the morning and lights out at 12 in the midnight. But what about the second year cadet? Do they have any obligations to fulfill?
As a second year cadet, they have a duty of responsible for first year cadet. So each cadet is assigned to 2 or 3 first year cadets. So they have a responsibility of taking cadets they are responsible. That plus all other duties that the second year cadets involved also, plus the major inspection they have to get involved with. As a second year, you start to study your major.
What about third year cadet?
Third year cadets, they're responsible for the first and second year cadets also. They have a responsibility for that. And also they have all the responsibility over the companies or the squads they're involved into. So it shares more responsibility over as a whole group, whole company as itself. Third year or fourth year, your responsibility it gets growing because it shows they trying to demonstrate as a West Point, trying to build some kind of leadership skill for each cadet.
So as second, third, and fourth year cadet, how many junior cadets they have to lead?
For the second year, probably about 10 or 12. I believe that's the last time I heard from my son.
I guess then it comes to graduation, right?
The graduation happens in the end of May. As a junior, before you go into senior year, that you will get to see the branches that you wanted to get into when you graduate from West Point, going to Army. So you have a responsibility to choose branches when you are in third year. So you get into a few artilleries, infantries, or armor, or helicopter pilots, or military intelligence. There's various different branches that you want to get into, not associated to majors that you are taking not associated to major that you selected in West Point, but the branches are totally different than major. So starting to think about when you're in third year, and when the fourth year comes, which is senior year, they will have a big events for the branch. They will be apply for the branches they want, and they want to be in. And then if there's a certain rooms or they have a certain grades or GPAs, then they have a spot for them. They will get the notification of the branches that week on the fourth year.
Got it. So all the branches gonna come to the campus and recruit them, and based on their criteria, I guess you can choose which branch you want to apply for. But do you get to choose whether you want to station in the country or get deployed overseas?
Yes, you can choose the branches plus you can choose the overseas that you want to be into. But that depends on your GPA. That if you can, if you want to choose the way you want to go. So top choice is right now. There are a lot of cadets that wants to go is Germany, plus
Germany.
And also Hawaii, and those are like top choices because it's a great place. So they're kids, they're 20, 25, less than 25.
They want to have fun, right?
Yeah, they want to have fun, of course.
Of course.
But also they want to serve the country. So
absolutely.
Those are two top choices. But a lot of kids want to go there, so they will select based on the GPAs during the academic year. in West Point. Yeah.
Got it. And in the beginning of the show, we mentioned once you graduate, the cadets are commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army. How much does second lieutenant make?
Close to approximately about every month, I was close to about $3,000. That's including housing. They will pay for the housing plus the food. There's some allowance the government pays for the food allowance every month. So you put all that together, close to about $3,000. And also, they don't pay tax on that, so it's a tax exempt.
Tax-free. That's great.
Yeah, tax-free. And also medical insurance is all covered by
medical.
United States Army. You put that together in civilian salary, that's quite a lot, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So we mentioned there's a 5 years active duty need to be served for each cadet that graduated. What is the career path like during those 5 years?
Well, first, as soon as you graduate from West Point, you become a second lieutenant. After you become a second lieutenant, about 10 months later, approximately 10 to 12 months later, you become a first lieutenant. So right away, you get promoted to, about a year later, you get promoted to first lieutenant. Mm-hmm. So, and usually when you graduate from West Point or the majors that you've been taking in the West Point, you will work not related to the majors that you choose in the West Point. So it's going to be totally different than what your major is. So, for example, my son studied system management, that's related to financial area. But right now he's in a field archery, shooting cannons. So that's nothing to do with what he's majoring. Yep. So the major will apply when you get out of the Army, when you go into a private sector, getting a job, that's going to be related to them. But during the armies, they will, get involved with works that are not related to the major, but they will get involved with, military operations, military duties. The soldiers were not going to stay in one place so long, and they were because, for example, my son, when he was in Korea, they only have a 1 year duty in Korea because they're considered as it's like active war zone in Korea because of North Korea. So you get to stay just for the 1 year, and then when he came back from Korea, then right now he's in Kentucky, so he's going there for about 2.5 years, and then he might, most likely he's going to get staged to different country.
After 5 years of serving the country, where do most people stand in terms of the ranking?
Mostly after 5 years, you become a captain in the career-wise in the Army. So captain is pretty really, you make, if I want to, show the salary, close to about, I would say close to about $4,000 a month. They're including all the stipends that, that's including in there. So plus when you come as a captain, that you are in control of about 150 soldiers. So when you come out of there, you will, get a job or get into private sector that's going to look really good on your leadership skills.
Absolutely. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about what kind of people will succeed in West Point and beyond. We don't want our kids just to survive because we want them to thrive in this situation. What are the typical personal traits or personalities that you often come across when you see somebody do so well in West Point and after graduating from West Point?
One thing that West Point look for is leader. And also you have to have one purpose of serving the country, this great nation. That's probably the main purpose, really, have to do. Without that mindset, you have a difficult time. In order for cadets to really survive in West Point, you have to be very proactive what you do and very aggressive what you want to do. West Point is a different college. First day you walk in the door, you are in the Army. You are a property of the United States Army. You're not associated to Army, or you're not associated to, sacrificing your life to the country, then you're not going to have a really great time in West Point.
So let's talk a little bit about Asian cadets, because you're Asian, we're Asian, our audience are Chinese Americans. I'm looking at a stats from Wikipedia, which it was pulled from 2017. I'm looking at the Asian Americans, undergraduate about 6%. Is that number about right?
Yes.
Okay, and according to the U.S. Census data, the Asian American population is about 5.7%. So Asian Americans who's in West Point is actually slightly higher than the general population.
The Asian population in West Point is a little higher than that, I would say, 7 or 8%. The 6 things they're looking for in West Point when every year when they pick candidates. The first thing they're looking for is a percentage of a woman. And then also they look at percentage of soldiers. And then they will look at percentage of minority. And then they will look at percentage of leader, percentage of scholar, and then percentage of athlete.
Interesting.
So we are looking at this, we call this class compensation. So there's a certain percentage that every year we set, West Point Automation, they set those percentages. So we blend all these percentages to get, try to have diversity inside the West Point. It's a certain percentage that it doesn't cap it, then we increase a certain percentage of different categories to have that, to match that certain percentage to have that every year. We're not getting so much leaders, then we can increase some of the percentages from the woman or different area to get more candidates from that certain percentage. So that applies to Asian, I believe. So every year that we have certain percentage, but some years we increase a little bit, some years we decrease a little bit in certain classes. So that's our percentage we put in trying to diversity in the West Point.
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty good number. So, but in terms of the Asian American group, are there any specific group outnumber the others?
Korean population much higher than any other ethnic Asian ethnic population in West Point, because the Korean population approximately, I would say, there's about 150 Korean cadets in West Point. So that's going to represent there's 4,000 cadets in the West Point. So that's going to represent close to about 2%, 3%, close to like 3%, or close to 4% of the whole class, probably more than half of the Asian population.
What about the Chinese Americans?
I can access to New Jersey applications. Anybody who apply to West Point, every year the Chinese, the candidates who apply to West Point getting increased every single year. So I haven't noticed that. Last 3 years when I checked my portal for all the candidates who apply to West Point in New Jersey. So every year we have approximately about 500 candidates who are applying to West Point every single year. I would say approximately about 4 or 3% is Chinese.
Hopefully after this call there will be more.
Yeah, I hope so.
I want to talk about the Asian cadets, how well they survived the physical challenge at the West Point. Typically, I think there's a stereotype about Asian being less physically competent. Can you share your experience and thoughts on this matter?
Really, I don't see that really stereotype of a physical status for Asian cadets. I mean, Asian cadets are very physically, well shaped. I think that kids who wants to go to West Point, cadets, the candidates that go to West Point or cadets are in the West Point, and they're very they do all the physical activities just like other ethnic group, or whites or blacks or Hispanics. I mean, their physical standard is similar to any other cultural background.
What about the female candidates? I know the Asian population has a pretty good representation in West Point, but what about the female Asian population?
The female percentage is close to about 25%. I don't have an exact number for female Asian cadet percentage at all, but that's going to be together with Asian percentage to get into West Point, because they were trained just like male cadets. They will go through the same training as just like the male cadets. They will do exactly the same thing as a male cadet. So Females are, nothing less than the male cadets. They implemented a new system where every cadet has to do boxing in the first year cadet. So even the female cadet, they have to do boxing as when they're in the first year.
Before we move on to the last segment of the show, I know West Point, for one reason or another, is still a mysterious place for Chinese parents. A lot of Chinese parents would love their children to be an engineer, become a Wall Street banker, lawyer, or doctor. I don't know how Korean American parents are like, but my guess is it is more or less the same. So my question is, what are the common and typical reasons that you see holding back Asian Americans to apply for West Point?
A fear of being a very tough situation when you're in the army. So, as a parents, we have the same worry anybody have. I mean, I want my sons to be in a safe place. I want my sons to be just not being a danger, in any kind of situation. But if kids want to go to West Point and over the country, if their dream is that, then if that's greater than anything else, then as a parent, it's just hoping that nothing will happen.
So I guess the biggest message I get from your answer is really it's driven by the kids, not the parents, right?
Yes, because it's their reason has to be specific where they want to go. If that's the reason they want to be in, then as a parent, no matter what situation they want to get into, and we have to support that 100%. And I think that's the right way I'm looking at it. I mean, you are Asian, I'm Asian. This is a second country for me. And my home country is Korea. Like yourself, your home country is China. But this is a place where, you see on the news now, you see on the many times that there's discrimination, racial tension, all that stuff's going on. But as a parents, we want our kids to be in a situation where they want to be equally treated, equally right. The military academy will give that chance, kids to be in a right mainstream American society where they can succeed better than any other Ivy League school. Because you're going to West Point, or you're going to Naval, or you're going to Air Force Academy, their main focus, I've told this many times, serving the country. Serving the country is not coming from anybody, and not everybody's going to do that. American society will appreciate that a lot from an individual who sacrificed in their life.
I think that's very well said, that you going to West Point, that you are perceived as a leader of this country and the person who sacrificed themselves to serve the country. I think that's a very good point. So your son went to West Point. How was his experiences like? What's the most challenging part he had?
Time management.
Oh, can you tell me more about it?
I mean, from high school to going to West Point, like, within 24 hours, your life is a whole turnaround. I mean, it's just they see on YouTube, they see on the video what it's like. They know what's going to be what they're going to expect, all that. But once you get into the door and open the door, once you walk into that, whole different area, it's a very culture shock for any 18 years old kid.
Sure.
They will expect totally unexpected things because it's the army. But what they see on the all kind of stuff and all the medias, and as you experience it, it's totally different. Each class have between 18 20 classes every semester. So it's academically it's very challenging. And also each day there's certain duties they have to do, and some of the required things that they have to do every day. So there's certain time that have to be finished, homeworks, papers, all the stuff they have to do in a certain manageable time. So if you don't have time management skill, then you will have little difficult time in the West Point. And my son, the first year, had that problem because One time I remember I went up there and then I was talking, and he was kind of a little frustrated. So, and I could see that from his face. So I asked him what's wrong. He said that he just don't have time to do anything. And so I told him, and just why don't you just manage your time to get things done. And he was telling me that he doesn't have time to manage. And so I told him, and then I realized, well, it's got to be a very tough schedule. I told him, and then I told him that, look around, you have like 4,000 other cadets in here doing the same thing as you are, and they're all doing it. So you shouldn't be, feel alone, and they're all doing it. So I think that's setting a really good example for cadets that who are going through the experience, because everybody's doing the same thing. It's not like regular civilian colleges that everybody has different thing to do. They have like 2 classes, 3 classes a day, or different, everyone has the different schedule. But here, mostly everyone has the same schedule. Yeah, everyone has a certain classes they do. Everyone has a duty to do. So everybody share their problems. Everybody share their duties. Everybody do everything same thing. So you are in an environment where everybody has one goal and one goal only, and to serve the country and finish the school, being an army, and then dedicate yourself for in the army for 5 years, whatever the time that you wish to stay. And they all have the same goal. I think that allows each cadet to be surviving the West Point much easier. Getting, if they've been in any kind of situation themselves, in tough situation, and they have some better environment, much better environment than any other place regular civilian college to go through.
That's great advice. So I'm sure your son goes through the West Point. He grew so much. Which part do you think is the biggest part of the growth in your son's life?
His attitude.
Attitude. Okay, can you tell me more about it? So what?
Yeah, sure. He's kind of laid back when he was in high school. It's like any other boys. They're in high school. Parents tell them what to do, and they're always. I think a lot of boys are like that. That's push back and just procrastinating. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that later, and all that. But girls are different. Girls are very aggressive, but boys are very laid back and always like you got to push boys to do something. But after you get into West Point, and I see him change every single year, and physically also, and then mentally, and also, and he presents himself to others. And I see that every year as he grows. Every year that he passes, he goes in the different grades in West Point, and every year little by little it changes. So that shows quite a difference as my son changed, and not just my son, but the kids that I helped them out to get into West Point, and when they graduate or when they be a senior, when I has the chance to look at them, and their attitudes change because you are in a positive environment, and as I mentioned that you are sharing the same goal with the others, and your mental status is much higher than regular kids from regular colleges. They're thinking more positive, aggressive towards to what they want to do, not in a bad way, but more aggressive toward their dreams. Their attitude is more positive.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Really glad to hear that he's become like a mentally mature person because his experience in West Point. So I guess we reached the end of the show. Any parting advice for the parents and the children of the Chinese community?
The one advice that I want to give it to all the parents, that's including any parents that their kids that wants to apply to West Point, make sure the decision has to come from a kid, not the parents. I think that is very, very important. If the kids decide that West Point is the only place that they want, if that's the number one choice, and support them 100%, no matter what it is, support them 100%. And by doing that, just take him to West Point. And one thing that I did for my son got interested when he was in the end of sophomore year. And 1 year for about, I would say probably about 6 months, I just took him to West Point every single month. And there's a basketball game, football game, all the activities that going on at West Point. So you could just take them over there, your sons, your daughters, your kids, just take them over there to visit the campus. Let them share, any questions. You could see cadets over there, just go over there, let your son or daughters go over there, let them talk to cadets and what they think about. Ask them all the questions, let them get involved with what the campus is like, and let them see the campus, let them get involved with the cadets, and let them get some, pretty good idea of what they're getting into. And once they decide that the West Point is their goal, and once that have that in their heart, then really getting to the whole application process is going to be much, much easier.
For people who are interested in West Point admission events, such as like open houses or other events, where do they find the information?
Yeah, if you go to westpoint.edu, that's the official website. If you go there and there's an admission tab, you click on the admission tab, that will direct you to the event that's happening throughout the whole Northeast area.
非常感谢 Felix Yim 先生为大家做的精彩分享，相信大家对西点军校的招生流程、录取要求、上学的体验和毕业后的职业发展都有了更深的了解。最后，我还想分享一下对 Felix 的个人印象。我和 Felix 是1年前通过一个教育会展上认识，他作为西点军校的招生代表，在会展上帮助家长们解答有关西点军校的问题，所以这次能够请他再来上节目，我也非常开心。大家在节目中可能听到了 Felix 的个人介绍，他作为西点军校在新泽西的招生代表，完全是义务服务。他私下里也曾告诉过我，他做招生代表是因为他的儿子在7年前申请加入西点军校的时候，得到了当时的招生代表很多的帮助，这促使他在孩子进入西点之后，决定也加入招生部。而今天的这个节目，通过和他的对话，我很强烈地感受到他是一个对孩子特别上心的父亲。虽然他从头到尾都没有说过自己对孩子付出过什么，但他做的事情却可以很清楚地看到他是如何上心的。这包括他在儿子决定报名西点军校之前，曾多次带着孩子去参加西点军校的活动。在儿子决定选择西点军校的时候，他决定全力支持。虽然他说他和任何一个父母一样，都很担心孩子的安全。在孩子上学期间去看望他，并克服孩子在时间管理上遇到困难。他甚至因为儿子的原因，还加入了西点军校招生部，作为招生代表去帮助更多的像他孩子一样的年轻人。他为孩子做了很多事情，但在节目的最后，当我问他对所有的父母有什么建议的时候，他却说要确保孩子的选择来自孩子本人。我觉得这是一个对孩子有着充分的尊重而又默默付出的父亲，挺让我有触动，所以也就多说2句，和大家分享一下我的体会。我也是一名父亲，虽然我的孩子们年纪还小，也不知道他们是否有机会长大以后参加西点军校，但是即使不上西点军校，能把孩子们培养出有勇气、有责任和有荣誉感的人，那这样的孩子长大以后肯定也是错不了的。您觉得呢？好的，今天的节目就结束了，希望大家都有所收获。我们下期节目再见。
希望您喜欢本期爱家网教育生活节目，欢迎您关注爱家网公众号北美爱家。爱家网官方网站在 happyhomekeeping.com。我们的每期节目都会通过爱家网官网、爱家网微信群、Facebook、YouTube、iTunes Podcast， 还有喜马拉雅6个平台同时播出。欢迎您关注，并选择方便自己的平台收听。谢谢您的收听，我们下期节目再见。